Welcome back to the show. We're talking about the crisis in the Persian Gulf between Qatar and some of its neighbors that began last month. Let's get back to our panels. Mohsen, let me start with you. Would it be fair to say that there is deep rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran for power and influence in the Gulf region? And what we're seeing right now is that rivalry playing out.
I think this is definitely part of it. It is part of it because Saudi Arabia is trying to minimize the relationship between Iran and Qatar. And also, Saudi Arabia is seeking to establish itself as the unchallenged leader of the GCC. And precisely because in the past few years, perhaps 10 years, Qatar has pursued more or less an independent foreign policy. Saudi Arabia has decided to take advantage of the good relationship that has developed between President Donald Trump and King Salman of Saudi Arabia and trying to settle the score they've had with Qatar. But I don't think they're going to succeed because they overestimated the Qataris' fear, and Qatar is standing very strong and is trying to establish once and for all that it is an independent country and can have an independent foreign policy. But another part of the problem, and I think that is really more important than any other issue regarding this terrorism issue, it is more about internal security in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar and Egypt than it is about terrorism. Because ultimately, you have to understand that Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates oppose Muslim Brotherhood, not so much because Muslim Brotherhood advocates terrorism, but because at least a major portion of the of Muslim Brotherhood believes in electoral politics. They believe in elections. And anything that comes close to an election is something that the Saudi leadership cannot accept, and nor can the United Arab Emirates. And therefore, they are trying to use this excuse of terrorism to destroy the Muslim Brotherhood. And Egypt, which I don't think has any real interest in the conflict between Qatar and Saudi Arabia, has joined Saudi Arabia only because Muslim Brotherhood is an internal security matter for Egypt.
Joyce, Al Jazeera is a target of the Saudis as well. This is what Al Jazeera's senior political analyst had to say about this list of demands. He said this list shows that these four countries are not interested in a solution to the crisis. What they're asking for is a total and humiliating surrender by Qatar of its sovereignty. Why has Al Jazeera been targeted?
I think today there has been also a change in Al Jazeera. It's the number 6 condition on the list. They had asked to shut down Al Jazeera, but today we heard from the UAE Foreign Minister of State for Foreign Affairs that the goal is not to shut down Al Jazeera. They're talking about Al Jazeera Arabic to change its messaging, to change its
just to be clear
structure.
here, there is an Al Jazeera Arabic and there's Al Jazeera English.
And
so
they're
the target
very different.
The target here is Al Jazeera Arabic.
Exactly. I think the target here is Al Jazeera Arabic. As you know, the station revolutionized how we look at media, how we cover media in the Middle East. They were the first to get live coverage, for example, from Gaza. So they've done a lot, but in particular, post-Arab Spring, as Mahjoub was saying, I think there has been a perception that Al Jazeera is promoting Islamists, that Al Jazeera is targeting Egypt's security, for example. In the 2013 agreement that had been signed with Qatar and was leaked by CNN, we saw that Qatar agreed that Al Jazeera Arabic would stop airing negative coverage on Egypt. It's actually written in the text of the agreement itself. That has not happened. Right now, when we're talking to U.S. officials or others, there are ideas to restructure Al Jazeera, to stop incendiary messaging on Al Jazeera. Is that going to happen? We don't know, but it is a very serious
Well, that's going to be very
issue.
difficult because, you know, one person's incendiary comments may be another person's truth. Ahmed, let me get to you. I mean, both sides are holding fast to their views on this. What are the chances for some kind of resolution, for them to come to some kind of agreement?
Well, President Trump said it, Qatar has to stop terrorism. We cannot live in Saudi Arabia with neighbors who support terrorism. We fought so many times, the record tells. We prevented attacks in America, we prevented attacks in the UK, Europe, all over the world. So unless we eliminate terrorism, and now Daesh is eliminated, and we cannot have another band or another group after Daesh to come. So also we have to work on the mindset. We have to work on countries like Iran who support ISIS, who support 40 militia groups in Iraq, who support terrorism in Syria, and the advanced battalion of Iran is Hezbollah. All this money is instability in the region.
Yeah.
Okay, we are in Saudi Arabia. We are proud to be an absolute monarch. This is our system. This is how we govern. We don't believe in election now. Maybe we believe in election 50 years from now. This is how we are, and we are stable, and the formula suits us very well. We don't need anybody to impose anything, whether it's America or whether it's Iran. Okay, and you know, we evolve as our people see it, and our tradition actually meets.
This was never about democracy, just to lay things on the table. You haven't seen also elections in Qatar in a long time. I think that when you talk about vibrant democracies in the region, you could mention Lebanon, perhaps Kuwait and Israel. So to frame this, and now Tunisia actually, so to frame this as if it's a battle on for democracy, I think we're past that period.
And we need to separate the mosque from the politics.
I hear it. Different sides are framing this.
Islam.
Different sides are framing this very differently. They're looking at it very differently. Let me go to Marjorie for the last word. Marjorie, what would Qatar be prepared to do to resolve this crisis? Would it be prepared to negotiate, give in to any of these demands? What can it do?
As an observer, I think they show their willingness for negotiation. They are ready to negotiate and to sit with the blockade countries, and they can discuss with them all matters. I think what they have done so far, they communicate their case very well to the international community. They have done a very good defining to the crisis. And I think they did manage the more than 40 days so far in their favor. What we saw also that the discussion about Al Jazeera Arabic in particular has occupied a lot of negotiation and discussion. And one can say whether France can ask UK to stop or change the editorial policy of BBC, whether UK will accept that or not. Or someone in the United States, can someone ask CNN to change its editorial line? Of course, we'll reject that. That is something. I mean, people, they should be realistic and accurate when they discuss these kind of matters.
Okay.
I think this is the crisis, as I mentioned, and I have to make great emphasis. It has the root pre-2010, and it's likely, unless these issues being clarified, it's likely to continue, or at least to be solved, but for short term.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for joining us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. Please join us for more international news shows throughout the week, and thanks again for joining us.